Oprah is almost unrecognizable lately. Maybe it's dieting, maybe it's Maybelline, or maybe it's Ozempic. Oprah Winfrey is no stranger to scrutiny over her weight. For as long as she has been in the public eye, the icon's body journey has played out in the media, on magazine covers, and on episodes of her own, hit talk show that ran for 25 seasons. Oprah has said on many occasions that it was public sport to make fun of her for 25 years. And she said due to that, she has been blamed and shamed, and she blamed and shamed herself. And Oprah said one hurtful moment came early in her career when she landed on, fashion critic Mr. Blackwell's list. She said, "I was on the cover of some magazine and it said dumpy, frumpy, and downright lumpy." She continued to say, "I didn't feel angry, I felt sad, I felt hurt, I swallowed the shame, I accepted that it was my fault." Winfrey now says that she is optimistic that she now has a better handle on how to maintain a healthy weight long term and rid herself of shame once and for all. Using a holistic approach that includes regular exercise and other lifestyle tweaks, Winfrey confirms she has also added a weight loss medication to her regime. So yes, our spidey senses seem to have been right, guys. Oprah said, after knee surgery, I started hiking and kind of setting new distance goals each week. I could eventually hike 3 to 5 miles every day and a 10-mile straight up hike on weekends. I felt stronger, more fit, and more alive than I'd felt in years. Now, she says, I eat my last meal at 4 o'clock, drink a gallon of water a day, and use the Weight Watchers principles of counting points. I had an awareness of weight loss medications, but felt I had to prove I had the willpower to do it. I now no longer feel that way. She adds, I was actually recommending it to people long before I was on it myself. Once she reconciled the science, Winfrey says she released her own shame about it and consulted her doctor, who went on to prescribe a weight loss medication. She said, I now use it as I feel I need it, as a tool to manage, not yo-yoing. Now, opting not to name the specific medication she takes, she continued to say, the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in my lifetime feels like relief, like redemption, like a gift, and not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. I'm absolutely done with the shaming from other people, and particularly myself. Oprah Winfrey has revealed that taking, these weight loss medications have made her realize the truth about thin people. She said, one of the things that I realized the very first time I took a GLP-1 was that all these years I thought that thin people had more willpower. They ate better foods, they were able to stick to it longer, they never had a potato chip. But after taking the GLP-1, she realized that it wasn't willpower at all, it was a lack of intrusive hunger thoughts. Oprah revealed that the very first time she took the GLP-1, she realized that thin people don't even think about food. She said they're eating when they're hungry and they're stopping when they're full. The host went on to say that the media has made fun of her struggles, which she calls a disease. She said, every week I was exploited by the tabloids. Anytime any comedian wanted to make fun or make a joke about it, they would make a joke about it, and I accepted it because I thought I deserved it. Well, no one deserves that.
Now, one thing that was emphasized was that Oprah's show came before everything else, including her employees' families. When Oprah launched the OWN network, the first show she premiered was season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. Now, in that episode, she asked women that worked for her to speak about their experiences, and they did not hold back. Now, a large portion of the women who worked for Oprah had their own families, and they spoke about how they had to make certain sacrifices in their personal lives for the success of the show. They talked about the challenges they faced as working moms, and one of them was quoted as saying, I had to be okay with making sacrifices for work. I hope I inspire that passion in my children. Now, Oprah thanked them for working long hours and sacrificing their personal lives, but made it clear that it was necessary and par for the course. I mean, yes, it is important to be dedicated to your work, but not having the balance of being able to be with your family just seems way too extreme. I mean, you'd think with Oprah being worth so much money, she'd be able to hire as many people as she needed and not leave people overworked or missing important events in their lives. Now, to be honest, I really hate that rule. Now, this was just reaffirmed by Libby Moore, who spent 11 years working as Oprah's chief of staff. I hit the job jackpot, she told Women's Agenda from her New York base. It was like winning a Grand Slam. It was extraordinary, and even now, 5.5 years after leaving, it's actually hard to articulate because it was so massive, she said. Now, to say that the job was consuming was a vast understatement. An average day saw Libby arrive for work between 6:30 and 7 a.m. and leave between 10 to 11 p.m. Now, the show was syndicated to 144 countries, and the demands were constant. Libby would routinely reply to 250 emails while watching the taping of the talk show, and that was just 1 hour of her 15-hour day. I got to take care of her so that she could do what she did best. It was my pleasure to support her in that way, Libby explained. As far as pressure goes, the highs were super high and the lows were super low. Not because of Oprah, because of everything else swirling around that level of power, money, and fame. I wasn't very good at balancing my life. As amazing as the job was and the friendship that Oprah and I had, my personal life was really suffering. I had 3 long-term relationships while I was in that job, she says. I could not continue any longer in the position. I needed to take a leap of faith and see where I would land. Wow, that is very intense. Then there's also the fact that Oprah makes everyone sign NDAs. Now, this isn't too surprising, but most NDAs are for a limited time. Hers though, well, her staff must sign lifetime agreements. In the year 2000, Oprah defended the restrictive gag order for employees, saying, "I have to function in an environment where I feel I could trust my employees." Now, honestly, this just feels extreme, but it seems like they take this quite seriously, as Elizabeth Cody, a former producer for Harpo Productions, wanted to write a tell-all book about her experiences, but she was unable to. Now, the whole thing went through court, but Oprah had a strong team. Now, in addition to having NDAs that keep her safe, she also has the best security team. Oprah once hired Michael J. White to her security team before he went on to become the first black actor to play a superhero. White is trained in Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and numerous other martial arts. Now, it seems like Oprah really puts an emphasis on safety, physical and intellectual. Something else is that you need to be prepared to deal with controversies and the potential there could be lawsuits, and you might be called in to testify. Or the fact that a case could completely throw your life for a loop. You see, in the spring of 1996, according to CBS News, the United Kingdom experienced an outbreak of mad cow disease. Per the FDA, the disease destroys cows' central nervous system, and if humans eat infected beef, they can contact a deadly variant. Now, during the mad cow scare, the Oprah Winfrey Show booked Howard Lehman, and the former cattle rancher had adopted a vegetarian lifestyle and went to work for the Humane Society's Eating with Conscious Animal Welfare campaign, and he appeared on the show to discuss the threat of mad cow to Americans. Now, he pointed out that feeding the remains of mad cow infected cattle to other animals could have facilitated the spread, and that such practices were common in the US. Now, Oprah was left stunned by this. Now, with Oprah's influence, right after the episode aired, beef prices plummeted for almost 2 weeks, hitting a 10-year low. Now, as a result, a group of Texas cattle ranchers sued Oprah for $10.3 million, alleging that her remarks caused undue harm to the entire beef industry. Now, one Texas rancher, Paul Engler, lost an estimated $6.7 million and organized a class action libel lawsuit against Oprah and her show's producers for besmirching American beef. Now, after a 6-week trial in Texas, she won, but I mean, just imagine having to go through all of that. Now, this wasn't a rule for her staff, but for who was paying them. The first year of her talk show, Oprah gave her staff members rolls of toilet paper. Now, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Oprah said she put a special message in the rolls back in 1986. Now, this came in the wake of management refusing to give the staff raises. They said, direct quote, "Why do they need more money? They're a bunch of girls." I said, well, it's a bunch of girls who are now doing a national show. And they said they're in the same room with the same desks, in the same office, on the same street. They don't need any more money, recalled Oprah. So if management wasn't going to help, Oprah decided that she would find a way to reward her employees. So that first year, I gave everyone bonuses. I had a big dinner and my idea of being creative was to have $10,000 rolled up into toilet paper rolls at the dinner as gifts because I couldn't get my management to pay them, she revealed. Then I went to management and said, if you don't pay them, I'm not going to work. By the next year, it was like, I'm not going to keep paying them, I shouldn't have to pay everybody out of my salary. That informed me that if I ever get my own business, I'm going to pay people well, she said. Now, it's actually really good that she did this and created a change, especially for the times. And Oprah also makes sure that all of her staff are acting appropriately. You see, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls opened in Johannesburg in 2007. This was one of Oprah's passion products as she founded it with $40 million of her own money, and she even hand-selected the 152 students who attended. But less than a year after the school opened, 6 of the 152 students who had been personally selected came forward to accuse dorm matron Virginia Tiny MacGobo of mistreating them. Virginia pleaded not guilty and her trial was ongoing. She was arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, where she faced 14 different charges. It has shaken me to my core, Oprah said, of returning to South Africa with a team of private detectives to investigate the allegations and personally speak with the girls. This has been one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, experiences in my life, she said. Now, in the end, Oprah fired all the matrons no matter what, and following the first trial, she was then sued by the headmistress of the school for defamation. She alleged that Oprah defamed her by implying she was covering up the mistreatment going on at the school. However, this case was later settled outside of court before the arranged trial, according to CNN.
Seal publicly exposed something about Oprah that almost got her canceled overnight. Celebrities question the recent paid endorsement and her integrity.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement? Not true. Not true, okay.
We had billionaire Oprah begging people for money after the disaster in Hawaii.
So if you send a donation, just click where you see below and send a donation.
Oprah lives with a lot of evil secrets, and she has been publicly exposed by celebrities. First up, we have the James Frey controversy. Oprah's book club famously promoted James Frey's memoir, A Million Little Pieces. It was later revealed that significant portions of the book were fabricated. Oprah confronted Frey on her show, but the controversy damaged her reputation for discerning quality literature.
I don't know what is true, and I don't know what isn't.
Steve Harvey, he is a prominent figure in American entertainment, has occasionally expressed differing views from Oprah Winfrey, particularly regarding her influence on Black women. He has suggested that some of Oprah's advice and lifestyle choices might not be entirely practical or attainable for the average Black woman. Harvey has also questioned the long-term impact of some of Oprah's initiatives, suggesting that while they might provide temporary solutions, they don't always address the root causes of systemic issues affecting Black communities. It's important to note that these criticisms are often nuanced and don't necessarily reflect a deep-seated animosity towards Oprah. Rather, they represent different perspectives on how to empower and uplift Black women. Star Jones. She hated Oprah. This actually caused Star Jones to quit the talk show The View. The abrupt departure. Jones's sudden exit from The View raised eyebrows and fueled speculation. Weight loss surgery? The revelation that Jones had undergone gastric bypass surgery, which she had previously denied, caused controversy and damaged her credibility. Oprah's involvement? It was rumored that Oprah, a close friend of Barbara Walters, played a role in the decision to remove Jones from the show. This led to accusations of betrayal and misrepresentation. Ice Cube has expressed his frustration with Oprah Winfrey, claiming that she has blacklisted him from appearing on her show. He believes that Oprah has a bias against certain artists, particularly rappers, and that she has unfairly excluded him from her platform. This alleged blacklisting has led to tension between the two, with Ice Cube publicly criticizing Oprah's decision. While it's not necessarily hate, it's clear that there is a significant degree of animosity and resentment between them. Janet Jackson. Janet has accused Oprah of manipulating Michael into participating in the interview, promising to portray him positively, only to use it to damage his image. She believes that Oprah betrayed their family's trust and contributed to the negative narrative surrounding Michael. While there hasn't been a direct public feud between Janet and Oprah, Janet's feelings of betrayal and resentment towards Oprah are evident in her public statements and interviews. David Letterman. There was a long-standing feud between David Letterman and Oprah Winfrey, but it wasn't rooted in deep-seated hatred. The tension arose from a less-than-ideal interview that Oprah had on Letterman's show in the 1980s. She felt uncomfortable with the audience's reaction and the overall atmosphere, which led her to avoid appearing on his show again. In response, Letterman started making jokes about Oprah and their supposed feud. However, over time, they managed to reconcile their differences. In 2013, Oprah even appeared on Letterman's show, and they discussed their past tensions openly. Rosie O'Donnell and Oprah Winfrey had a public feud in 2008, stemming from Oprah's handling of the James Frey plagiarism scandal. James Frey, author of A Million Little Pieces, was a guest on Oprah's show, and his book was a featured book club selection. However, it was later revealed that significant portions of the book were fabricated, leading to a public backlash. Rosie O'Donnell, who was a frequent guest on Oprah's show, criticized Oprah's response to the scandal. She felt that Oprah had not been sufficiently critical of Frey and had not adequately apologized to her viewers. O'Donnell publicly expressed her disappointment, leading to a heated exchange between the two women. The feud played out in the media, with both women making public statements about the situation. Oprah defended her decision to invite Frey on her show and to feature his book, while O'Donnell maintained her criticism. The disagreement ultimately led to a cooling of their relationship, and O'Donnell has not been a guest on Oprah's show since. Moving on, Wendy Williams, the late talk show host, was known for her outspoken personality and often used her platform to share her opinions, sometimes bordering on criticism, about other celebrities. Oprah Winfrey was no exception. Williams frequently made snarky comments about Oprah's weight, often joking about her size or making playful digs. She also criticized Oprah's choice of guests, particularly when they were celebrities known for their controversial behavior or past scandals. Williams would question why Oprah would choose to platform such individuals, implying that it was beneath her or that it damaged her reputation. It's important to note that these comments were often made in a humorous or lighthearted manner, typical of Williams's comedic style. However, they did highlight a certain level of tension or rivalry between the two powerful women in the television industry. Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin, known for her sharp wit and often controversial humor, has publicly criticized Oprah Winfrey on several occasions. One common theme in her criticisms is Oprah's physical appearance, particularly her weight. Griffin has made jokes about Oprah's weight, often in a self-deprecating manner, but still drawing attention to Oprah's size. Additionally, Griffin has accused Oprah of being too self-promotional. She has criticized Oprah's tendency to use her platform to promote herself and her various business ventures, rather than focusing on uplifting others. Griffin has suggested that Oprah is more concerned with her own image and brand than with genuinely helping people. Chris Brown. He believes that Oprah has contributed to the negative portrayal of Black men in the media, particularly through her interviews and discussions. Brown contends that Oprah often focuses on the negative aspects of Black male experiences, perpetuating harmful stereotypes and overlooking their achievements. Furthermore, Brown has expressed frustration with Oprah's influence on popular culture, suggesting that she has promoted a particular image of Black masculinity that is often unrealistic and damaging. He believes that this image can lead to negative perceptions and expectations of Black men, hindering their progress and opportunities. Monique has a long-standing feud with Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, stemming from her role in the 2009 film Precious. She claims that they blacklisted her from the industry after she refused to promote the film further due to a pay dispute. Monique believes that Oprah and Tyler Perry used their influence to silence her and damage her career. She has been vocal about her grievances, accusing them of hypocrisy and unfair treatment. Ludacris. So, remember that time Ludacris went on Oprah to talk about his serious role in Crash? Well, things didn't exactly go as planned. Instead of discussing his acting chops, Oprah decided to focus on the misogynistic lyrics in some rap songs. Ludacris felt a bit blindsided, like he was being judged for his music career rather than his acting. He even said, "She gave me a hard time as a rapper when I came on there as an actor." Ludacris felt like he was being singled out and that his words were taken out of context. It was a bit of a clash between generations and artistic expression. They both moved on, and it's safe to say that Oprah probably didn't have Ludacris back on her show anytime soon.
Oprah Oprah Winfrey has been spotted in a video from 1998 inviting Hollywood stars to one of Diddy's infamous parties. Now, she appears in the video clip inviting guests to the star-studded bash, Diddy's 29th birthday, and she is joined by other well-known celebrities gushing over the star and his multi-million parties. Now, this is not a good look for Oprah. Now, Oprah has had many controversies throughout her life, but being involved with Diddy might be the final nail in the coffin when it comes to her career. She and Diddy have appeared together at numerous charity events, and Oprah has featured Diddy on her show, where they discuss not only his career, but also his charitable efforts. Now, this appearance helped elevate Diddy's message about social responsibility and community engagement, which is kinda ironic if you think back to it now. Now, this isn't the first time Oprah has been linked to some horrible men in the entertainment industry that have ended up behind bars. I mean, it's starting to become a pattern. When she was asked about this, she said she tried to focus less on the crimes and the victims' stories, and instead inside the bigger picture, which a lot of people had issues with. Her former friend Seal took to Instagram to call her out for her suspicious behavior. "You have been a part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you're the solution," Seal said. "Oh, I forgot, that's right, you heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually doing those things to young starry-eyed actresses. My bad," he said. Yikes. Now, it seems like Oprah definitely knew what was going on. What's strange is that Oprah has actually been a victim to the crimes Diddy has been accused of. You see, Oprah was born in Mississippi to a single teenage mother and grew up in extreme poverty. During her childhood, the cost of raising Oprah became too much for her mother to handle, so she was sent to live with her biological father. Since then, Oprah has come forward talking about how she had been mistreated and taken advantage of by her cousin, uncle, and a family friend. As a young teenager, and after suffering for years, she then ran away from home, and a year later she became pregnant. Now, she gave birth to a son, but he was premature and passed away only a few weeks later. Now, Oprah has used this story to show her strength and to inspire people, but it seems like she might have helped continue this cycle towards young girls. I mean, we have to talk about the whole sketchy situation about her all-girls school that she created. When the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls opened in Johannesburg in 2007, Nelson Mandela, Tina Turner, Sidney Poitier, Spike Lee, and Oprah herself attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony celebrating the landmark boarding school founded with $40 million of Oprah's money. But less than a year later, 6 of the 152 students who had been personally selected by Oprah to attend the institution came forward to accuse dorm matron Virginia Tiny McGobo of mistreating them. She was then arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, and she faced 14 different charges. "It has shaken me to my core," Oprah said, of the returning to South Africa with a team of private detectives to investigate the allegations and personally speak with the girls. "This has been one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, experiences of my life." Now, it seems like she and the organization did not look into who they were hiring and how the operation was running. I mean, this whole thing could have been avoided. Now, following the first trial, Oprah was sued by the headmistress of the South African girls' school for defamation. She alleged that Oprah defamed her by implying that she covered up the mistreatment going on at the school. However, this case was later settled outside of court before an arranged trial, according to CNN. Now, that's not all that happened here though, as speculation of numerous missing girls from the academy have spread like wildfire across social media. Now, could Oprah have been taking the girls? That's definitely a possibility. Not to mention, parents also came forward with complaints about the school. In March 2007, some parents complained because they were only allowed to visit their children once a month, and the girls were only allowed to use their cell phones on weekends. One parent said, "It was a nightmare. We had only 2 hours to see my child. Surely this isn't a prison or an institution." Another mother said her homesick daughter was very upset over the rules. "Michelle phones me in tears sometimes, and then I don't know what to say to her." Shockingly, the school is still up and running, which is crazy considering all the scandals that have happened there. Then there's her canceled documentary. Oprah apparently spent a fortune to make sure the docuseries created about her never sees the light of day after clashing with Oscar-winning filmmaker and director Kevin McDonald over the project. As the Apple TV Plus deal was coming to an end, Miss Winfrey bought back the rights to her docuseries and has since decided to put the doc on hold, a spokesperson for Oprah told Page 6. In addition, another source said Kevin made the film, but Oprah didn't like it and he refused to change it, and Oprah has paid back her fee to Apple. Internet users reacted to the news that the documentary was putting on hold, and they were not impressed. Many questioned if Oprah was worried that some damaging information was set to become public. Well, now isn't this sketchy? One person wrote in Page 6's comment section. Another individual asked, what is she afraid of or hiding? Similar takes showed up on Twitter, as one person wrote, what is Oprah hiding? While another tweeted, Oprah Winfrey shelled out a fortune to prevent a documentary release. Sounds legit, money talks, right? Not the truth. Yeah, I gotta say that this is pretty sketchy sounding. Then we know she's mistreated people in the past, whether it be celebrities, guests on her shows, or even her own stepmother. Yep, it was reported that she was accused of being heartless to her own stepmother after she was kicked out of the 5-bedroom South Nashville home she shared with Oprah's father for 14 years. Barbara Winfrey told Daily Mail that her life had been deliberately ruined by the talk show legend following a bitter divorce with Vernon Winfrey. Oprah's a billionaire 3 times over, her help to live better than this, Barbara pointed out, adding, she said publicly that she offered to sell the house and give me the proceeds, but that's a lie. She never said that. Oprah owns property all over the world, so there's no reason to sell this house other than to spite me. It's a personal vendetta, she said. Now, legal papers claim that Oprah was involved in a conspiracy to separate her father and stepmother and essentially make the latter homeless. What she has done is nothing short of evil, but she doesn't scare me. Her actions cause me to disrespect her, Barbara said. Now, it seems like Oprah is always at the scene of the crime, and online users have been convinced about her downfall for years. One online user posted this on Reddit, and I honestly have to agree with it. They said, Oprah Winfrey is not a hero, nor should she be considered a role model. Successful? Sure. A good role model? Not really. She's nice, and she's certainly not an awful person, but she also consistently promotes individuals on her show who peddle pseudoscientific nonsense to a massive crowd of guests and television viewers. Dr. Oz being one of the most famous examples. The willingness to promote this type of content either means that the Oprah Winfrey Network is unwilling to do background research into these guests and their claims, or that they will promote whatever gets them the highest view count, making it rather low value and possibly harmful to pretty much anyone who watches the show. Why would anyone look up to someone who endorses science? Anyone who does even basic research into some of the so-called professionals that come on the show would realize they're spewing absolute nonsense. I don't know if this is unpopular or not, but I feel like a lot of people look up to her and think of her as both a pioneer and a good person. I don't see it. Lazy, unhinged, and disconnected from reality, or lazy and opportunistic. That's how I see her and her show. Now, other people responded to this post in agreement, saying, I noticed this about Oprah 20 years ago. Once you see her, you can't unsee her. She seems shallow, egotistical, self-absorbed, and all the rest of it. Another said, it wasn't until I was older and seen exactly what her show was about in the 80s and early 90s, and seen she capitalized off making a mockery of her trauma. No longer a role model, just another rich person who snubs their noses at anyone who's gone through life as she has. Makes me sick, actually. While a third person said that she was just straight up evil.
Rose McGowan has called Oprah Winfrey as fake as they come in a scathing Twitter post over her friendship with scummy producers who I can't even name, they're that awful. We can't even show you a picture of them, so you're gonna have to use context clues today, folks, if you don't already know the identity of the mystery people that I'm talking about. So Rose McGowan took to Twitter to speak out against the popular talk show host, sharing a photo of Oprah kissing the disgraced Hollywood producer on the cheek. Once again, we can't show that photo. So that photograph of the pair was taken at the 2014 Critics' Choice Movie Awards, if you're looking for it. Rose McGowan is a Me Too activist. She accused that particular producer of wrongdoing, and she accompanied her post with a caption reading, I am glad more are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. From being pals with insert anonymous producer's name here, to abandoning and destroying victims, she is about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come. #Lizard. Now, the victims she referred to are those of a hip-hop music mogul. Nope, not the one I talk about all the time. One who has been accused of more than a dozen cases of SA and misconduct since 2017. Now, he's responded by admitting inappropriate conduct in some instances, but disputed the allegations of non-consensual interactions. Once again, not the one I talk about all the time. Somebody different, whose name I don't think I can say either. In terms of mainstream American talk show hosts of the last 40 years, Oprah Winfrey and David Letterman are up there. They're two of the biggest names of all time. For a long time, their shows were a place in pop culture where the most influential figures in any mainstream media felt comfortable enough to throw off the cloak of privacy and be candid about their lives. You know, back before social media and we all got glued to these little devices. And even though they were both masters at conducting interviews, objectively speaking, they were locked in a strange rivalry that had a lot of people perplexed at the time. So apparently these two had a feud that lasted more than 2 decades. Oprah refused to speak to David Letterman whenever they bumped into each other. So apparently this all started when Oprah appeared on The Late Show back in 1989, and apparently that was an uncomfortable experience for her. So the crowd was angry because the night before she'd hosted a TV show about devil worshipping, which was a complete disaster due to the outlandish claims of some of her guests that she seemed to entertain, including a couple of very deranged people. So when she went on Letterman, the crowd was so heated that one guest even called on the host to, and I quote, "rip her Dave." Now, Letterman explained why he felt Oprah got so angry at him, and he thinks she resented the fact that he didn't rise to the occasion and, go after that guy. And he said, which I probably should have, but it was completely out of control and I didn't know what I was doing. Now, admittedly, the late night talk show host did not help matters because afterwards he would make quips about Oprah's feelings towards him and exaggerate the situation. Letterman even claimed he was ill because he ate clams at her restaurant, The Eccentric. She likes to forget about that restaurant. Now, Letterman later made things worse in 1995 by tearing into Oprah during his duties at the Academy Awards because he was the host that year. He said, "I've been, itching to do something all day, and I think we can maybe take care of this," he said before introducing Oprah and one of the biggest stars of the day, Uma Thurman. He said, "Oprah, Uma, Oprah," and he quipped about their names before adding, "I feel much better. Have you met Keanu?" Now, despite all of this, and David Letterman being quite rude, apparently Oprah's real hatred started in a different moment from her appearance on his show back in 1989. So, speaking with Jon Stewart in 2010, Letterman explained that Oprah hated him after he left her with his bill at a restaurant they were both eating in. So this was apparently long before the Academy Awards. She was out with Stedman, and Letterman was with his then girlfriend Regina. They were both at a restaurant having lunch on vacation, and he said to his girlfriend, "Oh, this is hilarious. I'm gonna make Oprah buy us lunch." So when the time came to pay the bill, Letterman told the waiter, "Oh, this woman right over there has been kind enough to take care of our check." And then he and his girlfriend waved to Oprah as they left, and he said, "We got a free lunch," and apparently that's where it started. Good grief. In 1988, Elizabeth Taylor playfully shut down Oprah's attempts to get her to address dating rumors, and Oprah teased her about her refusal to give a straight answer. Now, years later, when Oprah reflected on the interview, she called it her worst. She said, "It's still painful to watch for many reasons, including my bad hair." And okay, that's a joke, but that's not actually why it's painful to watch, lady. She explained that before the interview, Elizabeth Taylor had asked Oprah to stay away from questions about her relationships. And Oprah said, "Well, that's kind of hard to do when you're Elizabeth Taylor and you've been married 7 times. And to her credit, she later apologized to me." Okay, but you still went against her wishes, so no wonder Elizabeth Taylor didn't really like you in the interview. When Robin Williams and Nathan Lane did a joint interview to promote The Birdcage back in 1996, Oprah brought up potential rumors about Nathan's sexuality since he played an openly gay character in the film. Now, at the time, it being 1996 and all, he wasn't about to discuss his sexuality publicly, so Robin, being Robin Williams and an improv master, quickly changed the topic by making a joke. So fast forward, it's 2023, and Nathan Lane said, "I don't think Oprah was trying to out me, but I did say to Robin beforehand, I'm not prepared. I'm so scared of going out there and talking to Oprah. I'm not prepared to discuss that I'm gay on national television. I'm not ready." And Robin, being Robin Williams, said, "Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. We don't have to talk about it. We won't talk about it." And Nathan Lane credited Robin for swooping in and diverting Oprah and going off on a tangent and protecting himself because Robin Williams is a saint. So in February of 1993, Oprah landed the first live televised talk with Michael Jackson in 14 years. And she asked the unthinkable in this hour-long television special. So since the mid-80s, there was a lot of speculation about Michael Jackson. People were like, "Oh, he wants to be white. He bought the Elephant Man's remains. He slept in an oxygen chamber. He married Elizabeth Taylor. His best friend was a monkey. The monkey was telepathic. And that he was a virgin." Yeah, so Michael Jackson didn't respond to anything except for through his music. For instance, Leave Me Alone from his 1987 album Bad, which is my favorite album, was the first song in what became something of a subgenre for him. Michael taking media harassment and responding to it with music. Or at least, that was how it went until that fateful day, when sitting across from Oprah Winfrey in this special, he responded. So it's the most awkward part of the interview, and Oprah took up the topic of the singer's love life. She said, "I'm gonna ask you something, and it's embarrassing for me, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Are you a virgin?" And you just feel Michael sigh. He tried to laugh it off and he replied, like, "How could you ask me that question?" Like, pretty much everything else she asked him falls under the long list of topics I'm not allowed to talk about, but I can say they were extremely intrusive and personal, not to forget controversial, and if I ever meet this woman, I have so many questions for her. Once upon a time, Oprah Winfrey found herself in a brand new situation. She had to apologize to her audience. Now, what did she have to apologize for? So we all remember Oprah's book club, right? Oprah's favorite things. So she had this book. She was like, "Oh my gosh, this author James Frey, he wrote this memoir, A Million Little Pieces. I love it, it's great." Well, when everybody found out that he fabricated parts of that mega-selling memoir, and it was mega-selling thanks to Oprah's endorsement, everybody was in trouble. So she said, "I left the impression that the truth does not matter. To everybody who challenged me about this book, you are absolutely right." And you know what? In theory, good for Oprah, right? She's admitting to being wrong. But here's the thing. When I mean everybody was calling Oprah out for, the flub, I mean everybody. Like the New York Times did a report on the memoir. So Oprah didn't really have a choice. She had to apologize. Besides the initial investigation showing that the author clearly lied about time he spent in jail, various run-ins with the law, some employees at the rehab center he attended also came forward to dispute his portrait of life there. And hey, if you were one of the people begging for Oprah to apologize, you got it. But, and this is where we get into things today, she did it in a way that had a lot of folks waving red flags about her behavior. So as Oprah really dug into Frey over various moments in his memoir that had either been proven false or remained dubious, you almost felt sorry for him. Let me explain. So the audience clapped when Oprah kept spitting out zinger after zinger saying it's a lie. You presented as a false person. It was kind of hard to avoid thinking that the author was there to be put on display, not just to set the record straight, but for a public punishing, dare I say almost a witch trial of sorts? More than once, Oprah emphasized that experience embarrassed her. So her revenge was just shaming him in front of a live studio audience. And at the time, everybody was shocked. They were like, who knew Oprah was an eye for an eye kind of lady? So, my little question for you, Oprah. If you could see at the time now that everything was a red flag and whatnot and so false, why didn't you see it sooner? Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for footage of that whole everything, it's been scrubbed from the internet. May give that what you will.
Best friends or secret lovers? Oprah sets the record straight on her lifelong relationship with Gayle King. After years of speculation of whether the duo, who have been best friends for nearly 50 years, are in a romantic relationship or not, they have decided to set the record straight. Oprah recalled in an interview alongside Gayle saying, "For years, people used to say we were gay. We were up against that forever. People still think that." Gayle then interjected on how it has affected their dating life. She said, "I used to say, you've got to do a show on this because it's hard enough for me to get a date on Saturday night with people thinking we're a couple." Gayle, who shares kids Kirby, 38, and William Jr., 37, with ex William Bumpus, emphasized the friends' candidness, noting, "If we were gay, we would tell you." Meanwhile, Oprah noted that she understands their friendship is a rarity, saying, "Maybe people aren't accustomed to seeing women with this kind of true bond." The 70-year-old then explained, "The reason why I think our friendship has worked is because Gayle is happier, not happy, but happier for me in any kind of success or victory or challenge I get through than I am for myself." Nonetheless, Oprah and Gayle's bond has proven stronger than most friendships. After all, it dates back all the way back to the 1970s when they first met as young journalists at a Baltimore news station. To give you a little background, Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King have been friends since 1976, to be exact, when they were both young journalists at WJZ-TV in Baltimore. Now, they were 20-somethings in their early days of their careers. Oprah was an anchor for the 6 o'clock news, and Gayle was a production assistant. assistant. Despite working in different departments, both were around the same age and single young Black women. The two struck up like an immediate bond. Now, their friendship began when Oprah actually invited Gayle to stay at her home during a snowstorm because Gayle wouldn't have been able to make it home that night. Gayle said, "We became friends that first night because for the first time, I met somebody who I felt was like me. I'd never met anybody like that. Certainly not another Black girl. I grew up in an all-white community." Now, the two explained that both of them could relate to the fact that even their musical tastes put them at odds with peers. You know, Gayle loved Barry Manilow and Oprah was a fan of Neil Diamond. Oprah said, "It's the whole being the odd girl out thing. We didn't fit into everybody else's perception of what it's like to be a Black girl." Gayle then added, "But we still had a very strong sense of being Black and we're very proud to be Black. So to meet another Black girl like that was wow." Gayle reflected on the past and said, "You know, we bonded because we had very similar philosophies. We were so in sync about so many different things and I never met anybody like that." Fast forwarding to 1986, Gayle made her first appearance on the iconic Oprah Winfrey Show during the debut season of it. Now, Gayle made her first of many guest cameos over the years. Apparently, the episode's topic was about celebrities and their best friends, which of course was very fitting for them. And the duo spent the show entertaining each other by recounting stories about, you know, ill-fitting dresses and disastrous hairdos. And in one of my favorite moments from the Oprah Winfrey Show archives, Gayle pulled off the ultimate surprise by unexpectedly popping in on Oprah in the middle of an episode. For an on-air party for her milestone birthday, celebrity guests like Gladys Knight, Sheila Rashad, Aretha Franklin, and Patti LaBelle were all in attendance, talking about how they lived their best lives in their 40s. But just as Knight was providing some wisdom, a clearly shocked Oprah interrupted to make a very special announcement. She said, "Gayle is here." The two embraced, and through tears, she explained why exactly her bestie's appearance was so welcome. She said, "This is so touching to me because Patti was here and Aretha came and then everyone was coming. I thought, gee, I wish Gayle could be here to see this." Gayle was equally grateful to be in attendance, offering the most humble response saying, "I have no song to sing, I have no words of wisdom, I just wanted to be here with you today." In another fan favorite Oprah Winfrey Show episode, Oprah and Gayle escaped on the ultimate road trip. The two actually set out on an 11-day, 3,600-mile adventure from Santa Barbara to New York City. In one clip from day 2, they had been driving for hours in Arizona, and the close quarters were actually getting to them. Oprah complained about the trip, and Gayle said, "All you had to do today was listen to my singing, which should have been very pleasurable." Oprah actually fired back saying, "Thanks, that's why I'm so cranky." Now, despite them doing almost everything together and making it look as though they honestly could have been a couple, Oprah did have a romantic partner. Oprah met her lifetime partner, Stedman Grant, in 1986. He has also spoken out often about how Gayle has supported Oprah's career from the very beginning. Oprah once said to Stedman, "When I was just turning 30 and I had an opportunity to audition for a job in Chicago, everyone except my best friend Gayle said, 'You're going to fail if you go there.'" Of course, Oprah ended up exceeding everyone's wildest expectations and went on to build an empire with the Oprah Winfrey Show, which ran for 25 years until 2011. And Gayle has been happy to be by her side through it all. Gayle previously told the New York Times, "Who doesn't want to be her best friend? If I didn't think I brought something to the table, or if I wasn't secure enough with myself, then maybe it would bother me. But you know, we've been anchoring for the news for a long time. I won 3 Emmys. I've proven that I can do it. I never feel I'm in her shadow. I feel I'm in her light." That's how I look at it. To be honest, both of them are media legends in their own right. You know, Oprah is a billionaire business mogul and Gayle is an Emmy-winning journalist and member of the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame. And each of these BFFs had a banner year in 2018. First up was Oprah in January. With words heard around the world, she accepted her Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes with a roaring speech that sparked hashtag Oprah 2020 presidential race rumors. Along with Oprah's partner, Stedman, Gayle was also Oprah's date for the night. Oprah even took to Instagram to show us a glimpse of their glam session in which she poked fun at her friend's lack of moisturizer. And 4 months later, the tables were turned when Gayle took the spotlight as she was officially inducted into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame. Oprah presented her friend, the award at the ceremony with a very heartfelt toast, in the heartfelt speech that day, Oprah said she deserves to be celebrated, not just for her news broadcasting, but for her being consistently joyful, vibrant, best outlook on life, best outlook on everybody's self, we are here tonight to celebrate you for continuing to build a legacy in the space of nice. We are here to honor your curiosity. We are here to honor your inquisitive interest in all of humankind. We're here to honor your desire to know the truth. In a move that was long overdue for the dynamic duo, a joint video series was officially launched called The OG Chronicles, starring Oprah and Gayle. I see what they did there. Very clever, honestly. And for the show, the two share a very small screen as they dish out advice for their fans. As they comment on love lives and friendships, they also share super fun personal stories from their lives. And in the first episode, we learned that Gayle once dressed up in saran wrap and a trench coat to spice up her relationship, while Oprah cooks soul food to keep it romantic with Stedman. Now, Oprah said, "I made some cornbread yesterday, and you would have thought I stripped myself butt naked. It's very clear that they have a bond like nothing else." Oprah once said, "When we first met, Gayle was always very happy with her life, and therefore happiest for my life. You cannot have a friend that's unhappy with their life be happy with your life. You gotta, have happiness to give happiness to other people." In March of 2019, Oprah praised Gayle for her explosive interview with R. Kelly. Following Lifetime's Surviving R. Kelly documentary, the disgraced artist sat down with Gayle in his first interview since he was arrested in Chicago on 10 counts of aggravated criminal essay. The explosive segment, garnered Gayle widespread praise as she kept her cool while Kelly proceeded to lose his. And one person, who was in her corner during her glowing show of professionalism, of course, her bestie Oprah. Now, Winfrey actually tweeted saying, "Bravo at Gayle King for calm and steady focus during #R Kelly interview. Outstanding job. Tell at CBS This Morning we want to see the whole thing." Just over a month later, Gayle's hard work was put on display again when she was named one of Time's 100 most influential people of 2019. And it should come to no surprise that Oprah was right there to support her. Now, in 2020, Oprah for the first time ever interviewed Gayle King in Denver during the last leg of Oprah's WW 2020 Vision Tour. Gayle was actually interviewed by Oprah for the first time ever in their decades-long friendship. The two covered a lot of ground during their conversation, including the story of how they first met, Gayle's divorce, and internet trolls. But, they ended on a very sentimental note about their friendship. Gayle said, "The secret to me is trust. I trust you totally, even if I disagree with you. I still trust you. I have this joke with Oprah where people say I found my best friend with my husband. I say to Oprah, if you ever walked in and caught me with Stedman, you should not be mad. You should take me to the mental institution. Don't be mad. I need help. But we're honest with each other and trust each other and actually are very like-minded." In April of 2022, People magazine honored Gayle and Oprah's friendship nearly 50 years after they first met. The dynamic duo's friendship was celebrated in People's beautiful issue 2022. Oprah and Gayle got glammed up for the shoot. This was only the second time Oprah and Gayle had done a professional shoot together. The first was for the cover of O, which is the Oprah magazine, in September 2019. At the People photo shoot, the pair joked around while working with, a movement coordinator, and Gayle even suggested Oprah should, slide down into the splits, but they opted for some classic power poses instead. Now, in March of 2024, Gayle celebrated their friendship in an interview with Newsweek. While most of the interview focused on Gayle's, prolific career in journalism, her and Oprah's friendship is so iconic that, of course, it would be hard not to bring it up. And the interviewer even noted that Gayle must get asked about her all the time. He said, "Do you, and is there something you're sick of being asked about?" Gayle replied, "I never get sick of being asked about Oprah because I so love that she is loved the way she is. I love that she is embraced the way she is, and it only makes me proud." It's very clear that they have a friendship that will likely last their lifetime. I don't see the pair calling it quits anytime soon, and just like the iconic video that went viral of Oprah saying she is the mother I never had, she is the sister everybody would want, and she is the friend that everybody deserves. I don't know a better person. You guys know the actor and comedian Steve Martin, right? Well, he used to do a routine that went like this. You too can be a millionaire. It's easy. First, get $1 million. If you put that routine between hardcovers, you'd have a book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. It's a self-help manifesto that basically says in a nutshell, what you think about, you bring about. The book's central premise, the law of attraction, is that positive thinking is the route to obtaining what you want in life, while negative thoughts will cause bad events to occur. I'll be honest with you, I read it years ago, and I won't share my opinions on it too much, but like anything, I did find some good and some bad. Well, Well, there was a big controversy surrounding Oprah about it back in 2006 because it was the subject of 2 episodes on the Oprah Winfrey Show featuring a dream team of self-help gurus, all of whom contributed to the project. At the time, Oprah wasn't just endorsing it, she championed it, putting herself right in the middle of it all, and made it a prominent theme not only in her life, but it was all over her website, and she would reference it in many moments on her show and in interviews. Her involvement actually helped the book sell more than 2 million copies, which put it ahead of the new Harry Potter book at the time on the Amazon bestseller list. These 2 episodes, however, caused a lot of issues and controversy because Oprah's producers received a letter from one viewer named Kim Tinkham, who had received a breast cancer diagnosis shortly after the show aired. They were alarmed by how far she had taken this advice and inspiration. Now, Tinkham wrote that she had decided to forego chemotherapy, instead choosing to follow the book's advice literally. The public got wind of this and went into a frenzy, saying that Oprah had promoted cult-like behavior and unrealistic expectations that could be extremely dangerous to a lot of people's lives. Now, Oprah brought Tinkham back on the show to set her straight and urged her not to ignore all the advantages of medical science. Tinkham, who went on to follow another New Age regime laid out in a book called The pH Miracle, actually passed away in December of 2010. Ultimately, Oprah stood by her position that, the law of attraction can affect positive change. The problem is that there have been many incidents similar to Kim's. Like, a lot of consumers took this advice very seriously, and it had a lot of negative impact on their lives, so not so good. And because of all the backlash, Oprah has tried to keep this incident a secret for years and has since removed both episodes on her channel and website to try and keep the whole debacle under wraps. Next, I want to talk about Oprah's Maui scandal. Now, Oprah has a special connection to the island of Maui, Hawaii. In 2002, she purchased a 23-acre estate, which she has used as a private retreat and vacation home. Must be nice. Oprah's Maui estate, which she named The Farm, features a luxurious main house, guest cottages, a private movie theater, and beautifully landscaped gardens. Now, over the years, Oprah has shared glimpses of her home with her fans through different media outlets. Now, in a response to the 2023 Hawaii wildfires, Oprah and Dwayne Johnson, better known as The Rock, teamed up to support the Maui community. They created the People's Fund of Maui.
Every dollar that you send that goes directly to the people.
They both pledged $10 million to establish the fund, which aimed to provide financial assistance to affected Maui residents. Now, when Oprah and The Rock both contributed their initial $10 million payment to the fund, they also invited the public to contribute their own donations for the rest of it. When it launched, critics began questioning why the 2 celebs didn't just fund it entirely themselves, especially given their wealth and net worth, and some people have said that we should just be grateful to have help at all, and that nobody, including celebrities, are obligated to help or give money to anything. But the big controversy and issue that many people have is how wealthy Americans have taken over large portions of Hawaiian real estate, even while native Hawaiians struggle to even receive land promised to be returned to them from the US government. People are on a 40-year-old waiting list for a home that the US government stole from natives over a century ago. And during the big fires in Maui, residents fleeing the carnage of the flames were held up at the gates of Oprah's very large fenced property. She was not staying at the vacation home at the time and opened up upon learning of the tragedy, but residents felt a certain way, knowing they had to contact authorities to get permission to cross onto the completely fenced private property. Like, yes, her property is that big that people needed to go through it to escape the fire, so let that sink in. People were also quick to point out that as a literal billionaire, she could afford to rebuild everything, including house, feed all the homeless people that are in Hawaii, and one social media user commented saying she's worth $3 billion. She could do all that stuff for people and still be a billionaire. With another person saying she asked other people for money with the whole, we know it's tough out there, so anything you can afford. Between Oprah and The Rock, they really shouldn't have needed needed to ask the public, I'm sure both of them could have given just as much without even noticing. One person even made a tweet that said, "You guys make more in a day than I'll make in my lifetime." Another good point that someone also called out was asking why they are asking regular folk for money when they literally have millionaire and billionaire friends who collectively could quite literally take care of it all. A funny comment towards Oprah and The Rock was a TikToker that said, "Hey guys, I think you posted this to social media by mistake. This needs to be sent directly to your friends." And on the real, honestly, I see no lies told, because why are you, a millionaire, asking us, the public, to contribute to this fund when most of us are lucky to afford like an iced venti macchiato once a week? Like, go ask Dr. Phil or Kevin Hart. Now, during an appearance on CBS Mornings, which is actually co-hosted by her best friend Gayle King, Winfrey addressed the backlash that she faced. When asked about the reaction, she said, "Well, this is a really great point about being happier in the midst of an onslaught of being terrorized and vilified online. I will say this. I came out of this experience with so much more compassion for young kids, because I was thinking, what if I didn't really know who I am? What if I didn't have the assurance of Invictus, that I am the master of my own fate and the captain of my soul?" And continued on by saying, "So all of the online attacks, lies, conspiracy theories really took the focus off of what was the most important thing, and that was the people of Maui." Now, this particular clip was shared on X, formerly known as Twitter, and she faced even further criticism because she was then accused of playing the victim. You know, one user wrote, "Oprah playing the victim while trying to sell her book? Gross." Now, despite all of the backlash, Oprah's popularity on social media soared. She gained more than like 110,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok alone. Another person actually wrote, "They're giving Oprah more airtime playing the victim than the real victims. Sad." Another person wrote, "Oprah playing the victim and saying she was terrorized online. Gee, I wonder how the people of Hawaii must feel." And one person hoped Oprah would read all of these comments and said, "Oprah, in case you read this, you are not the victim here. Talk to the people who lost everything. That is where our sympathies and prayers are." Now, a viral TikTok video that has been viewed millions of times made several allegations. They include that Winfrey hired a private firefighting team before the fire spread, hired private security to prevent people seeking shelter at her property, and had previously bought her land for pennies on the dollar. When asked about the viral TikTok, a spokesperson for Oprah said all of the allegations in the videos were false. The original video has since been removed, of course, from the platform. However, reposts with several millions of views are still available. Now, remember the infamous Oprah episode in 2004 where she gifted literally everyone cars? Of course you do. Well, it wasn't so black and white as it seemed. What she didn't want everyone to know is just how difficult it actually was for the audience to be able to drive off in one. It was Oprah's Favorite Things episode. Now, she surprised her studio audience by giving each one of them a brand new Pontiac G6 sedan. The episode, which was part of Oprah's 19th season, featured her favorite products and gifts of the year. At the end of the show, Oprah announced she was giving away 276 cars, each valued at about $28,000. Now, the surprise gift was met with tears, cheers, and screams of excitement, of course. The episode actually became one of the most memorable moments in Oprah's show's history, and it was widely covered in the media. To this day, it has been literally one of the most parodied clips, and people just can't seem to get enough of it. Well, as exciting as everyone was to know they'd just been gifted a car, what followed after is that they were hit with a hard slap of reality when they were told that it wasn't quite totally free. They were then told if they wanted to drive it off the lot, they'd first have to pay about $7,000 in taxes, which, let's be honest, like, who, especially around Christmas time, has a free $7,000 just sitting around ready to be dropped on a new car's taxes? If you're already planning on buying a new car, cool, totally get it. But being realistic, I would say more than half of her guests did not have that type of money just readily available. Now, on the plus side, the the audience was allowed to choose if they wanted to just take the cash value of the car instead, which, hey, like, not bad to go to a taping of the Oprah show and walk out about $28,000 richer, right?
Up first, entitlement. One of the key indicators of narcissism is entitlement. Narcissists believe they are special, deserving of better treatment and more privileges than the standard person. What could be more emblematic of entitlement than Oprah's consistent behavior surrounding her massive media empire? There are all sorts of different events that have shown her entitlement, perhaps one of the most famous being when she attempted to worm her way into the Paris store Hermes to go clothes shopping. The fact the store was closed and preparing for a party did not seem to faze her, though perhaps it should have. This would end up exploding into controversy, which Oprah has rarely shied away from, when it can be turned to suit her needs at least. This level of entitlement is emblematic of narcissism. Up next is grandiosity. Narcissists are known for their need to be grandiose. Events, meetings, arguments cannot be small and calm affairs. They need to be events where the narcissists can showcase themselves, improve their standing, or generally increase their social capital. A narcissist could never present themselves to the public without being displayed in the best possible light. This is a general aspect of many celebrities' lives, but especially so for TV hosts who make millions of dollars off of their presentations to the public. Their weekly shows of grandeur that bring in thousands or even millions of viewers. It shouldn't be too surprising that Oprah has a pretty clear attachment to grandiosity, whether this is from an intense internal drive and desire to put up a front of power, beauty, and likability, or a simple result of her living coming from the image that she can present to the world. Next is the superiority complex. Narcissists must believe themselves to be superior. It is one of the only ways to justify their continued self-serving actions. It shouldn't really come as much of a surprise that a person who has spent decades as one of the most famous and influential celebrities on earth, whose name is synonymous with unbridled generosity and wisdom, who's worth billions of dollars, would end up with some level of a superiority complex. We can see it in her treatment of several guests, as well as in her treatment of her family. She reportedly complained furiously when forced to use bedsheets and towels that weren't of a high enough thread count and quality while visiting her stepmother. Oftentimes, narcissists are least able to hide their true selves when with family, which seems to indicate Oprah is not as humble as she claims. Up next is arrogance. Oprah's arrogance is legendary. Some would even claim unrivaled. Take, for instance, the time the multi-billionaire asked the general public to help fund the Maui relief effort, while only donating $5 million. Given her net worth of well over $2 billion, this is essentially chump change to her. Even more arrogantly, she made the national tragedy, which was already receiving significant attention, into an opportunity to grab publicity, staging a large announcement and event to go along with her small donation. But perhaps the worst of it all is that Oprah used the money to buy up 870 acres of Maui, once more showing how the rich often use tragedy to snatch up land and resources, which they then use for personal gain while fronting as humanitarians. The exploitation of those in need for purposes of personal gain is one of the most consistent trends in all of history, and Oprah has certainly not shied away from doing the same. Only to then turn around and say, hey, see this massive issue that I could completely fix with a wave of my hand? How about I buy up all the valuable land from the now destitute locals, and you pay to fix everything for me, so that I can get to exploiting them faster. Next, manipulates others. Narcissists are almost required to be manipulators. It is how they function and gain what they feel they deserve to gain. The self-serving, self-aggrandizing way that narcissists live is often only accessible through continuous and severe manipulation. Guilting, gaslighting, lying, cheating, scamming, and stealing are all classic tactics and techniques which narcissists use to extract value from their prey. Oprah has often been accused of these actions, especially during her early career, when her show was little more than a televised freak show, bringing people on to be pitied or hated for views and cash. Behind the veneer of preaching living your best life, it becomes pretty clear that to Oprah that means for her, regardless of the social, emotional, or monetary consequences of those that she manipulates. Up next is gaslighting. Gaslighting, popularized by the play Gaslight, in which a husband attempts to manipulate his wife into believing she's gone insane and can't be left alone by changing things around the house and lying when she begins to get suspicious. The modern word has been used in all sorts of scenarios, but is meant to mean a situation wherein someone attempts to make you doubt your sanity or reality through constant lies and manipulation. Oprah is adept at this by keeping narratives just beneath the surface of her work. She gaslights us by contrasting her caring tone and surface level intentions with the obvious fact that she doesn't really care for the average person at all. all. One of Oprah's key narratives is that of self-love and body positivity, which is a vital aspect of encouraging positive self-image and is incredibly important. She markets this through her former company Weight Watchers, which alleges it can help subscribers lose weight easily. The only issue, Oprah herself is not a subscriber to that ideal and is more than willing to engage in deeply unhealthy behavior and the use of drugs to match society's expectations rather than practicing what she preaches. Next is the lack of empathy. Oprah is known as an empathetic person. She has to be for her tear-jerking shows to make sense. She brings on people to reveal a vulnerable part of themselves for millions to watch at home. How empathetic can you be when your main goal is how much money you can extract from your show? Plenty of people have a seriously invested interest in helping people who are struggling, in supporting mental health and mental health awareness. They just don't make millions of dollars off of publicizing and showcasing how good of a person they are. Off-screen, Oprah is another person entirely, which indicates just how much of a show her false empathy is. Instead of selflessly rebuilding Maui after the devastating fires, something she easily could have done, she bought up hundreds of acres of land on the cheap. Plus, she was responsible for the Dr. Phil show, which followed Oprah's lead of exposing deeply troubled people to mass media attention in order to siphon off as much cash as could be made. Up next is the false image projection. Narcissists obviously have to present a false image. If they showed themselves to be their true self, they would quickly be seen as the manipulating, self-centered liars that they are, and that simply would not do. Reality TV, by comparison, is almost entirely and exclusively image projection. Now, Oprah does a very good job of covering as much of this up as she can by forcing her entire crew and guests to sign incredibly restrictive non-disclosure agreements. These agreements likely include something along the lines of preventing and prohibiting any negative talk to ever be repeated. Questions to even retired staff along the lines of what was the craziest or worst or sketchiest thing to happen on the show are completely ignored in multiple Reddit AMAs and interviews. This coupled with dozens of people alluding heavily to Oprah not being nearly so magnanimous and generous behind the screen as she pretends to be in front of it, and we get an idea of just how false an image she presents to the world. Simply put, Oprah is not interested in the emotional and mental health of those around her and who work for her, but instead the image and presentation of a self-help show, magazine, blog, and more that rakes in millions of dollars. Up next is exploitation. Exploitation, for narcissists at least, is the result of careful manipulation and gaslighting, the fruits of their harmful and self-serving labor. The exploitation of their victims gives the narcissist what they want: validation, physical pleasure, emotional control, power, money, and more. But for someone who is rich and powerful with a media empire and dozens of affiliated companies, exploitation ceases to be a personal thing and simply becomes a way of life. Don't like your contract? This is the Oprah show. Plenty of people would be willing to work for that price. You're replaceable. Don't feel comfortable exposing your most intimate fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities to an audience of millions? Don't worry, it's Oprah. Nothing bad would ever happen to you. Don't like that your oh so generously given free car will actually cost you several thousands of dollars you may not have? Well, that part won't make it to TV anyways. And just to be sure, have everyone, everywhere sign strict and long-lasting non-disclosure agreements so no one will ever know just how badly they got shafted. The final and perhaps most key point: narcissists can do no wrong, in their own minds at least. No failure or harm or consequence is ever their fault. No success, growth, or benefit is ever anyone else's responsibility but theirs. We see this with Oprah as well, but on a scale more significant and more well concealed than almost anywhere else. Oprah is the face of her multitude of industries. Not only is it in her best interests, but also in the best interests of her shareholders for her to never do any wrong. Rampant maltreatment and harm within her youth leadership programs? A bad actor, surely nothing systemic. Toxic ideals being spread by her numerous weight-conscious exploits? A simple misinterpretation of the Queen's intention. We will likely never know the multitude of ways that Oprah has caused harm and covered it up, simply because she and her shareholders make literal dozens of millions of dollars from her squeaky clean image.